Hi guys, welcome back to Cros Art. Today we're going to do a continuous line drawing of a portrait, and we're going to use some collage techniques to fill in the image. So for today's lesson, what you will need is some magazine images of people or photos if you've got them. The larger pages, the better. If you only have small ones, small images of people, we can enlarge them. To make it easy, try and find a picture that takes up the whole page. So like that. You will need some baking paper. Okay, this stuff you can get obviously at the supermarket in the aisle where you find foil and Glad wrap. You'll use it for baking, but we're going to use it as a substitute for tracing paper. If you've got tracing paper, you could use that too, but maybe you'll find baking paper a little bit easier to find. You'll need some glue, obviously glue stick, or some Elmer's school glue, PVA. Maybe PVA or something like this is better because you can sort of brush layers of glue, but the glue stick would be fine too. And lastly, I want you to find as many different types of collage materials that you can from around your house, and this is the fun part. So I collect this stuff all the time. I've got a box down here where I keep all sorts of materials that I think might be useful. So I've got some flattened Easter egg wrappers, some patterned paper which actually came wrapping for toilet rolls, different types of tissue paper that have come through presents or online purchases, some more wrapping there. I've got brown paper bag, some different pages that I've torn out of magazines that have interesting sort of patterns on them, and some images you could find too. So anything that you find inspiring, that you are not too precious with, that you can rip up and use in a collage. So once you've got all of that together, I'm going to step you through how to create a continuous line drawing. Now, as in the name suggests, continuous means that you are continuing your line. So when we're drawing, our aim is not to be taking our pen or our pencil off the page. So it's one singular line tracing the entire face rather than stopping and starting. You could do a blind contour drawing if you felt like you wanted a challenge, and that is doing something without looking at your page, only looking at your image. But we're going to be doing a continuous line drawing, which allows you to actually look at the surface that you're drawing. So we're focusing on line for the first part and then collage and pattern for the second. So I'm going to flip the camera around now and show you what I mean. Alright, so I've got my image from magazine of my portrait, or you could use a photo if you have one, and a piece of baking paper. And you can see when I put it over the top, it's quite transparent, so you can see the image underneath. And like I said before, baking paper is a really good substitute for tracing paper if you don't have any. Now this is a little bit of a cheat exercise to a point on learning to draw faces, particularly if you are struggling, but we're also going to be making it a little bit more artistic and interesting by using continuous line. So we're going to start in one spot, and then we're going to end up back in the same spot using our pencil. So I'm not going to take my pencil off the entire time. I'm going to put it onto time lapse. lines. I've traced all around the image. I've really tried not to take my pencil off. You would have noticed I did a couple by accident, but I've really tried not to. And so what I should be left with, if I remove that, is a really interesting continuous line drawing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to transfer this image onto a piece of paper and then use that as a starting point for our collage. So I'm going to talk you through how to do that now. So we're just going to use a piece of plain paper and we're going to use our tracing as a starting point. Now what I would suggest is that you just draw back over your lines a little heavier, but still try and keep with that continuous line. So don't edit is what I'm trying to say. So really just sticking to those lines that you've already drawn on. You just need to flip it over onto your white piece of paper, and then with a pencil you can just trace back over the lines. Feels a little time consuming, but the effects are well worth it. And so as I'm tracing back over them, if I do a quick sneaky flick, you'll see how they've transferred really easily onto my white paper. I'm gonna have a little sneaky look, check that you've covered all of the areas there. And there you have a really interesting continuous line drawing that you've taken from a magazine. You have traced and then you have transferred onto your piece of paper, and this will be what you're going to use for your collage. So now the creativity begins. Using your different papers that you have collected, you are to start filling in each section with a different paper, or lots of the same. It's up to you. This is where your creativity can really start to evolve. What I'm going to do is trace over this with a Sharpie so that I get some really nice bold lines, because I am finding that I'm smudging some of that pencil. And once that's done, I'm going to start filling this image with my collage papers, and we'll see what I come up with. So I'll put it on time lapse and you can watch the artwork unfold. So there you guys go, a couple of collages using images found out of magazines and scraps of collage paper. So this one here, you can see I collaged the background of that and then used my technique of tracing over an image using a contour drawing and then transferring the contour drawing straight on over the top of that collage, which gives kind of a bit of a pop art kind of effect, and really looking at the use of paring down the line and the pattern. On the other one, it's a little bit more complex, using the same technique of tracing an image onto paper and then transferring it. And on this one, I transferred it onto the paper and then filled the area with some collage, different papers. So you end up with some really interesting and dynamic final pieces. You don't need to be very good at drawing portraits because we're using a tracing technique, but no one would know because you are doing a contour technique, and then what you're doing with it is highly creative, and that's where your artistic creativity comes into play. So I hope you enjoyed that little lesson. There's so many different options and variations that you could do of this. These are just two. I'd love to see what you guys come up with using that as inspiration. Bye for now.